Hello, I'm 25M, and my girlfriend is 23F. We've been together for over a year, and we generally have a great relationship. She's funny and kind. However, yesterday, when I got home, there was a golden retriever in our house.
When I asked my girlfriend
whose
whose dog it
was,
was,
she smiled and said, "Ours." I wasn't sure if she was joking or being serious, so I kept asking whose dog it was. She kept smiling and saying, "Ours," and then proceeded to say the dog's name. I don't really remember what she said her name was since a lot was going through my mind. She even told the dog to say hi Dad. I told her that she couldn't be serious right now, and she replied, "Why?" with a big smile. I didn't say anything else and just left the house and went to a hotel. At the beginning of our relationship, I had told her that I don't like dogs and can't be in the same room with one. Even when I see one in public, I put a good distance between me and the person walking the dog. I told her if she ever wanted a pet, she would have to get a cat or something else that is not a dog. While at the hotel, my girlfriend called me a couple of times, but I didn't answer. Then she texted me, saying that I was overreacting and that my fear of dogs is ridiculous. She said I should at least give it a try and live with a dog for a while, and that she and the dog would help me overcome my fear. But I never asked to overcome it, and honestly, it never bothered me as long as there were no dogs in my house. I never got bothered by one in public because I always put a good distance between me and dogs. I have never even petted a dog before and never will. I ignored her messages and just went to sleep, as I wanted to decide what to do when my head was clearer. I don't want to be the guy who says it's either me or the dog. She clearly likes dogs, and I don't, so I was thinking of just breaking up with her, even though she has been amazing throughout the year. AIDA for wanting to break up with her over this? Story 2. AIDA for refusing to support my sister during her divorce? My sister's marriage of 3 years is ending. She was with her husband for almost 5 years before the relationship, and marriage, came to an end.
I
saw
this
this
coming
before
they
they
got
got married. Deep down I never saw this marriage lasting, or not lasting happily anyway. I brought up my concerns to my sister and she told me I was wrong because she could fix all those problems. Let me explain what happened. My sister married a widower. They met 9 months after his wife died. His 3 kids were under 11 when they got married. The kids did not adjust to their dad dating my sister. They didn't like my sister, they didn't want their dad with someone else, they didn't want everyone to move on and leave their mom in the past. He really didn't get them any support during that time and he did nothing about any worrying or bad behavior. My sister believed she would win them over and they would love her and think of her as a parent in no time. But she also had a very hard time hearing about her husband's late wife/the kids' mom. She did not like her family being around the kids because she felt like they talked more about their mom after seeing their maternal relatives. She did not like that they held traditions with their mom clothes and refused to let her into any of them. I think my sister was just engaged at the time, but her husband mentioned wanting this dish his late wife used to cook and he mentioned her cookbook. The kids heard and hid the cookbook so my sister could never see it and she tried to coax them into handing it over. They said never. They said she couldn't do the stuff their mom did because she'd never be good enough for that. My sister believed she could fix that with time. The only thing that really happened is my sister grew to resent the kids' mom over time. She didn't like being compared to her in a negative way and having it made clear she was never going to be the first choice. I totally understand things like that being said to you will hurt. But she married a man who wasn't helping his kids through the loss and she ended up taking it out on the kids. The marriage ended 2 months ago after my sister ranted at the kids about how much she hated their mom and was glad she died, and giving her husband the choice of them vs me. He chose them, but without being asked to choose I fully believe he would have stayed. So now my sister is living with my parents again and the family have rallied around her. But I have not. I do not think my sister acted right here and while I feel bad for her about some of it, I did air concerns and she was so arrogant she thought she'd be able to fix everything. My sister and parents keep bringing up the fact I'm not there for her and how I should be. My sister asked me if I really thought she was so wrong in this that I would withhold my support, and I said yes. She and my parents said I should be supporting my sister no matter what. AIDA? So this is a throwaway cause I didn't want this on my other account. Anyway, I am 2f. 2 years ago I was able to escape my abusive parents' household and move to a completely different country. I now have nothing to do with them after how they treated me my whole life. From always making sure I knew I was their mistake child, to favoring my younger brother to physical abuse. I have millions of stories of what my parents did to me. Backed up by voice recordings of them verbally abusing me when I still lived there. My parents once borrowed $600 from me to buy my brother a Christmas present, only to gift me something worth $200. When I talked to them about it, they called me an ungrateful cunt and verbally abused me. When I left without telling them, they acted like they couldn't understand why I had done what I had. My mother's words were, "How could you do this to your father and I?" I replied, "You told me to get out if I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I'm not your problem anymore." Since then, every few months my parents have tried contacting me, saying they miss me, getting aunts and uncles to call. My mom's younger sister called me a spoilt brat and that my parents had always done right by me. I told her to STFU cause she didn't know what she was talking about. Anyway, this is about what happened at my workplace last week. A CO worker asked about my accent and I told him where I was from. Then he asked about my parents. I told him I don't speak to my parents and that they are dead to me. He seemed shocked, and told me that people from his culture group beat people for no longer speaking to their parents. I didn't reply and just tried to go back to work. Then he said, "Well, you need to get over it and forgive them at some point." I laughed and told him I would never forgive my parents for everything they did to me. He seemed shocked and didn't speak to me the rest of the day. The next day he tried brining it up again, saying something like, "You'll regret not seeing them when you're older." I ignored him, but he just kept pushing and even tried getting coworkers involved. So I snapped at him that it was none of his fucking business and he had no idea what it was like to be physically, emotionally, psychologically, and financially abused for 20 years. I went home early that day and reported the coworker to my manager. Now people at the office are avoiding me and calling me the asshole for lashing out at Steve. I feel like it's probably my fault for not just lying to Steve initially about my relationship with my parents, but at the same time, why can't others accept that not everyone has loving parents?